If you think about it, there have been three stages in our practical response to the coronavirus. The first stage was all about hygiene, washing, catching germs, desperately trying to get hold of hand sanitizer. Do you remember those days? Seem a long time ago now. Then the focus shifted to social distancing, keeping 2 meters apart for the few times that we venture outside our homes. The third stage, and the current stage, is a growing awareness of the need for complete isolation. Now, each of these practical responses, washing, distancing and isolation, is done out of love. Not just love for self or for fear of breaking the law, but out of love for one another. I want to suggest that there's a similar theme in the great feast that the church celebrates today. Today is Holy Thursday, or Maundy Thursday. Today is day one of the triptych of liturgies known in the church as the Triduum. Now here's my proposal. As we stand on the threshold of the Triduum, which leads up to Easter Day, let's think of this Holy Thursday in terms of washing, distance and isolation. In the Gospel reading for this evening's Mass, we're within the upper room with the disciples and we watch Jesus washing the feet of the disciples. Normally at Mass, the priest does this for 12 members of the congregation. Remember that in first century Palestine, after long journeys, guests needed to wash their feet upon entering a house. Feet washing was a social custom, normally undertaken by a servant or a slave. But here, Jesus does it himself. Yes, to fulfill a practical need and fulfill a social obligation, but he performs the action himself to demonstrate a unique love. Peter objects. He says, "You shall never wash my feet, Lord." This is where the principle of distancing comes in. You see, Peter couldn't contemplate a saviour who would serve him. But Peter needed to distance himself from this old way of thinking. Like us, he needed to grasp that Jesus was giving a new commandment, in Latin a mandatum novum, a new mandate, hence the name Maundy, derived from the Latin word mandatum. And thirdly, isolation. After the Last Supper, which Maundy Thursday also commemorates, Jesus walks the painful path to Golgotha. He does so alone. Without the cross, there can be no resurrection. Immediately after our Mass this evening, the tabernacle is left empty and we process with the Blessed Sacrament to the Chapel of Repose, which is a sort of recreation of the Garden of Gethsemane. And here we keep vigil with our isolated Lord. This year, of course, we are separated even further. We must keep vigil from our homes. And yet, like washing and distancing ourselves from old ways, this isolation is done out of service and love for one another. May Christ's example and the hope of Easter provide us with the sustenance we need in our journey ahead.